The Edwards Syndrome Association is a 100% volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to advocacy, equal care, education, and rights of people with Edwards syndrome. The ESA strives to empower parents to advocate while working to help break barriers for those with Edwards syndrome. This podcast is for educational purposes only. For all medical advice, please speak with your medical providers. Thank you for joining us and for breaking barriers with us.
Welcome to the Breaking Barriers podcast, where we talk all things Edwards syndrome, special needs, therapy, disability, and everything in between.
Welcome to another episode of the Breaking Barriers podcast. I am your host, Gina, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Crystal, and our special guest, Kelly, mama to Emma. Emma is 7 years old and has mosaic trisomy 18. On this episode, Kelly will share Emma's courageous battles at birth, which included being denied heart repair at a well-renowned hospital and battling sepsis at a very young age. She battled her way through these obstacles, and today she is thriving. Thank you for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
To get us started, could you tell us a little bit about your family?
Well, my family is Emma, who's, as you mentioned, she's 7. She just turned 7 a few days ago. And then I also have Matthew, her older brother, who is 25. And he has a daughter named Scarlett, my granddaughter, who's almost 22 months old. And there's another one on the way if she ever decides to arrive.
Maybe she'll arrive when we air this. It'll be kind of perfect and funny.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. When did you get Emma's diagnosis of Edwards syndrome?
I got her diagnosis when she was 6 days old. They tried when I was pregnant to get me to do an amnio. I refused because they told me that if it came back positive for trisomy 18, that they would not do an emergency C-section if she needed it. They would do it to save my life, but not to save hers. So I chose not to do it while I was pregnant. And so at 3 days old, genetics came in and into the NICU and was checking her out and everything. And they asked me if they could do the genetic testing on her. They thought she had the DeGeorge syndrome, so they tested for that too, which obviously she doesn't have it, and trisomy 18. And then at 6 days old, after an emergency event with her, they came in after she got stable and told me that she had trisomy 18.
And for our listeners that may not be aware of what an amniocentesis is, it is essentially a diagnostic test that examines the amniotic fluid to check for genetic conditions such as trisomy 18. So many of our kiddos do like the blood work that will indicate if there's chance of having a trisomy 18 or 13 or whatever the diagnosis may be, but that's not considered diagnostic. So then they typically try to push the amnio on you, which is what Kelly was referencing that she did not accept doing. And that is a common thing that we hear in the community is, people getting denied things because of doing the amnio and having that more official diagnosis. So it's interesting that you say that, Kelly, and you had one of those experiences. So when you say that they would actually deny like the C-section, essentially, would they have done it if Emma was breech because it's for your safety, or would they not even do it in that situation?
If it had to do with my life, like saving my life, because I guess I was compatible and she wasn't, they would they would do
Ridiculous.
it. But yeah. They wouldn't for her.
Bruh.
Is what I was told.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
So
what can you tell us a little bit about what her birth was like then? Especially knowing that you kind of had these diagnoses in the back of your mind as a possibility, and you knew that she was high risk, but you didn't have them confirmed. What was, the birth journey like, knowing that information and everything?
I mean, it was nerve-wracking because I didn't know how they were going to react. And I knew they were going to test her or ask me to have her tested after. So that was on my mind too. Um, she, I was actually induced with her at 37 weeks, 5 days, because, to me, they did it because they felt she wasn't going to survive anyway. So let's just set an induction date. And so that's what we did. And I got induced, and it was like 14 hours later, she was born. But what's funny is I went to 5 centimeters, and um she kept desat and her heart rate kept coming down. So they were like flipping me, and her heart rate would be good. And then, had to flip me again. And then finally they were like, we need to do an emergency C-section to get her out because her heart keeps desat. And they wouldn't have done that if I did the amnio. So technically, in a way, I feel like was the beginning of saving her life.
Mm-hmm.
So they were running around getting all ready and stuff for that. And all of a sudden I was like, I feel like I got to push. And they were like, no, no, no. We just checked you. You're only 5 centimeters. And it was only like 15 minutes ago. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I have to push. I've
Right.
had a baby. I had a baby. I know
You
what
can
it feels
feel it.
like. You know what I mean? So to appease me and shut
Yeah.
me up, basically, they were like, the doctor came over and checked me, and she's like, oh, she's 10 centimeters and there's the head. And they all came running over to me. They called the NICU team in. They called the NICU team because they had like everything ready for her
Yeah.
in case they could rush her to the NICU. So, and she was right after that, it was like 7 pushes. She was born, and she was 5 pounds, 1 ounce, 16 and a half inches. And she actually did really well after they had to help her a little bit to like get the breathing started. Her APGAR was 7, and the next one, once she started her screaming and stuff, was 9. So that's like extremely good for a
Mm-hmm.
trisomy 18. They actually changed her bed because they thought she was going to be smaller, and they had to change it out of the little incubator to the actual just a little bed. So shocking to them. She
Yeah. I
showed
mean,
them on the
that's
baby.
that's a good size trisomy 18 baby too.
Yeah.
Over 5 pounds is considered big.
Yeah.
So she was a
See,
good
Yeah.
I didn't know
size.
that at the time because
Yeah.
I was completely told that there was no survivors, and there was Facebook groups
Yeah.
wasn't a big thing back then, so I didn't even look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Gunner was 2 pounds and 8 ounces. So yeah, that's
Which is insane
pretty
to
good.
think about now.
look at him now.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
Yeah, it's like, how was he ever that small?
I
I
know.
mean, yeah, Mia was also small, not 2 pounds,
She's
but
what,
she was
three
3 pounds,
pounds?
4 ounces. Yeah, so she was pretty little
I
too.
I have heard that smaller babies, I mean, I don't know about trisomy
Uh,
18, but typical, if they're small, they're usually bigger kids and bigger adults.
oh, really?
Yeah, that's
That's
what my
interesting.
my mom's next door neighbor had I think he was 3 pounds, and he's good size now. I mean, he's older, teenager
Yeah.
now. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I don't know if it like goes with. I always think of Gunner when it comes to that. That's why I brought it up, is because it makes me think of Gunner. Like maybe that's why.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. He's a big old kid.
Yeah,
I think it's also common for them to come really fast, to like dilate like crazy fast, and then it's like everyone's
yeah,
scrambling, and then to push them out like really quick. I mean, I know that's the case with smaller babies usually, but
yeah.
it's interesting you said that. So can you tell us a bit about when you first received the official trisomy 18 diagnosis and kind of what that experience was like for you?
So it was very traumatic because of all the other things that were going on at the time. Emma was in the NICU, and they came to my room that morning. I was still inpatient. I was actually flown back into inpatient. And that's a different story. But they came to my room, two of the cardiologists, and told me that Emma's heart was failing. They didn't know why. They didn't know if it was like a metabolic disorder, or they don't know what happened. They don't know why. There was no reason for it to happen. Um, and they told me that they were going to move her from the NICU to the PICU. And I said, I want to see her. So they were like, you can go over. So I went over there. And when I was walking, I came around the corner to where her room was. It was like 30, 40 people. And I like ran in there, ran up to her, and there was a nurse there. And I like touched her on her head and was talking to her. And she was breathing so fast. Like I could tell she was in respiratory distress. And I went and I just sat on the chair to get out of the way to watch it all. And they whisked her downstairs to the PICU and they put me on a separate elevator. I know why they did that, just because I worked in the medical field, but they didn't want me there in case she
Yeah.
coded.
Right.
So when I got down there to the PICU, they had a social worker come and take me into a room and to talk to me. And all I kept saying is, I don't want to talk to you. I know what you're doing. It just doesn't work when you know what's going on. It's like a
Right.
double-edged sword. So I told her, I said, the
Yeah.
only thing that you can do to help me is I need to hear that my daughter is stable. And so it had been like 30 minutes. So she went out there and got one of the doctors, and the doctor came in and said that, yes, she is stable. They got her stable, and that there were two teams that were still working on her. I can't remember now which two it was, but she asked me if I wanted to go up to my room because it could be like a couple hours while they get her completely stable. And I was like, that's fine. So I went up there and I like called her dad, called my mom to come, and so I went by myself because I was there by myself. And so they got there, and then they I believe a nurse came in or something and told me that they said that I could come down to see Emma. So we went back down to the PICU, and we were in there maybe 5 minutes seeing her. I mean, and she was covered, like intubated. I mean, this is a child that was born that didn't even need oxygen when she was born. And she was intubated. She was on 3 different blood pressures, 3 different antibiotics. She was like on the max of everything, like, and all kinds of other stuff. Paralytics, all of that. And it was like 5 minutes that we were there. And then genetics walked in and they were like, oh, you Kelly? And I was like, yeah. And they basically just all of us just standing there, like we were around Emma's bed, and there was like 2 or 3 of them, and they looked like teenagers to me. They were young. And they were like, oh, we just want to let you know that she has trisomy 18. And so they just like kept going. They were like, so she's not eligible for heart surgery or ECMO here. Like that came out automatically. And I was just like, what? And they were like, oh, we're gonna have a meeting with the doctors. And it was like an hour later, like all the doctors, and there was like couch and stuff, like here's her bed, and there was like a couch and stuff by the window, like, and you come in the room this way. So we went over there with a bunch of the doctors, and I asked genetics during that meeting. That's where they were telling me they wouldn't do the heart surgery, yada yada yada. And I asked them what type did she have of trisomy 18, and they were like, there isn't a type. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because everything I read, it says full, partial, mosaic. And they're like, there's only one type, full. And they still kept saying one type, and I was like, oh, well, you're wrong. So I just like let it be because they weren't gonna say anything different. And that's how I found out. It was like really quick, and I was like very traumatized by it, because like all of this just happened where my baby about died. And she's like she had found out she had sepsis from a staph infection. She was in cardiogenic shock, going into septic shock. And here you come 5 minutes after they tell me I can come down and see her. because she's now stable, coming in with this. Like that's
Right.
totally not professional at all to me. Like I get you have to tell me, but you could have picked a time because her trisomy 18 wasn't going away. It wasn't like you couldn't
Or
tell me,
a
you
better way
know.
to tell you.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. So that's how we found out that she for sure had trisomy 18. And the way we found out that she had mosaicism and not full is when we got to DC, at Children's National, where she had her heart surgery, was we saw genetics and they retested her and she was mosaic. And of course, I asked them a ton of questions, and everything that I thought was going on because of trisomy 18 was completely not right from Johns Hopkins. But you can get that out. But so it was like that's what I found out she was mosaic, was she was like 5, almost 6 months old. So that's our journey of finding out the true diagnosis of it.
So I know you said that, I mean, obviously they instantly were like, she's not eligible for heart repair or ECMO or anything like that. So can you kind of explain a little bit more about how, like the view of Emma changed after you received the diagnosis? And I know you also already said that you eventually transferred hospitals. So kind of like what led to that and, you know, those details on how you navigated that
Well,
process.
we did we we switched hospitals is how it was. She never got transferred from hospital to hospital. The doctors at the first hospital, they just it was like, oh, they pushed palliative on me. I was a social worker. They had um the religious person come in and all this other stuff that I never asked for any of this. And they just kept having palliative care coming in and they were pushing and pushing and pushing. They wanted me to sign a DNR. They were like, the palliative care kept telling me, oh, well, she's doing good now. This is when after she was through all the stuff and we were up on the pediatric unit because I refused to I wouldn't let them put her back in the NICU. So we were up on the pediatric unit and the palliative care kept telling me, oh, well, they don't live past 6 months old. That's where I heard the 6 months old and all this other stuff. And I kept asking them if there was others, and they were like, no, because they all die. So
That
it's
blows my
like,
mind.
that's exactly how they were. And they kind of did change toward her. It was like, oh, well, yeah, she is getting better, but you know. And then when I asked them when we had a different meeting, because I had them retest Emma this a second time there, and I refused to. I told them that I will not have anything to do with genetics there. That somebody else needs to tell me what the second test result is. So they sent my cardiologist because I was a heart patient there, and her cardiologist, and we had a meeting one morning when it came back in the PICU. Me and her dad, and my mom was there holding her. And that's when they told me that she did have it. Like it was confirmed that she did have it with the second test. And that's when one of them said that we had talked about heart surgery and they said, oh, well, it's against our hospital policy to not operate on trisomy 18 babies, is how it was said. And I had asked, not at that point because I was in shock, but later on in this her birthing visit, inpatient visit, I had asked for a copy of that policy and never got it. They kept, oh, we'll get it, we'll get it. Never got it.
If there isn't
So
one.
right. So, so that was like our initial experience. I can say that out of the 7 years, that's pretty much the biggest like discrimination incident that we were involved with. Other than that, she's been treated just like anybody else. So after that, once we got out of there when she was a month old, like I never took her back, and every other hospital we've been in, and we've been in multiple. She has never been treated any different than if I would have taken my son.
That's good. Yeah, I
So,
feel like it's just those hospitals that just have that mindset that,
yeah,
you know. So what was it like when Emma was finally able to go home?
it was happy. It was, thank God. Um, but mind racking at the same time because she came home. She did come home on an NG tube and oxygen. Um, they said it was they, the hospital said it was for her heart. When I took her to the second hospital where her heart surgery was done, they were like, she doesn't need that. And this was when she was 3 months old, and they were like, you can take her off of that. And they were like, even if you want to test it before you do it. So we did, and we tested it, and we tested it like there during that visit, and she stayed 98 to 100. So that's when it came off, was she was about 3 months old. But I had already been testing it before because I could tell. And which I don't recommend anybody doing that on their own, but I did work on a cardiac unit before I had her, so I was well aware of testing, how to test it. And so
Does she
that's
have a
where,
pulse oximeter or no?
yeah, she had a pulse ox, those
Okay.
big ones.
Yeah.
That's where we had the big one. Um, and that's all we came home on, was those three things. She was eating by mouth a bottle, but whatever she wasn't eating, then I would put in the NG tube. So, and that got taken out when she was like 2 months old. She was eating full bottles by then. So, and gaining weight. So she was doing good.
So when did she get her G tube then?
When she had her heart surgery at 6 months old, well, she was almost 6 months old. Um, Part of the reason why we were in the hospital for a month had nothing to do with the heart. It had to do with this child would not eat, even though she ate my mouth the entire time until then. And it came about that she had oral aversion, and the cardiac surgeon that she had said it wasn't, that NG tubes were not as safe to go home on after a heart surgery. Not that they're not safe, like, any other time, but he was like, directly after heart surgery, it's not the safest thing to go home with. So they wanted her to have a G tube, and I kept pushing it off, asking them to, let me see if I can get her to eat. And they did. They worked with me. And then finally I was like, all right, you know, I have to agree, you know. And I didn't know
Yeah.
anybody with a G tube at the time. I mean, I had seen it when I was at work, but I worked in adults, so I'd never seen a kid. So, that's when she got the G tube. It was like 3 weeks after heart surgery before we went home. And she got it with the oral version. There's no medical reason other than that.
I bet that was hard to accept though, given that
It
she ate
was.
by mouth, because Gunner ate by mouth also until he was about 7 months old, and then it was like, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know?
Yeah, I was like, I gotta,
It,
what caused me to agree finally was, um, I was in a room with her by myself. Like, I stayed in there. Um, and she
hmm
was like, she was DSAT, and they kept telling me that it was probably reflux or whatever. So I was the only one in there, and it was going down. So I went and I picked her up. And when I picked her up, everything went back to good. And I was like, I can't go home
Right.
she's not going to be on all these monitors. So
Yeah.
that's when I was like, it's time to agree. So that's
Yeah,
what
and
we
that's
did.
a hard thing for kids with special needs, trisomy 18, Edward syndrome, all the things like feeding, feeding helps so much in
Yeah.
growing and, maturing in life, their bones
Yeah.
growing and all the things. And if you do not put those nutrients first,
Right.
it can change so much.
And that was the hard thing too, is because she just had heart surgery. So they were like big on getting the calories in for healing and stuff too. And
Yeah, definitely.
as soon as she got it, we were there for probably 4 or 5 more days, I'm guessing. I mean, I don't remember. It was 7 years ago, 16.5 years ago. But
Right.
she gained weight so fast with it
Yeah,
that
it makes a huge difference when you get
it
the right
does
and
so
appropriate
fast.
nutrients.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that was good
I
then.
agree.
So I don't
Yeah,
have
like
any regrets on it
I didn't
now.
hesitate. No,
I hesitated with it, but I'm glad
I
I
didn't
did.
because
Yeah. I'm
Gunner's
glad I was
reflux was
finally
so
like,
bad. It
yes.
was,
See,
yeah.
she didn't really have that.
Oh,
She
he would
had
like
like,
projectile vomit.
it
Like it
was
would
just
like shoot.
no, hers was just, it must have been like just coming up. Nothing was coming out. It was just like coming up and causing like
Oh
the desats.
no,
So
you'd be in the front seat and it would shoot you in the back of the head. It was so bad.
she got to that point. She did go through that after the G tube because you have to adjust everything and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad
The
she
G
doesn't.
tube is a godsend. Honestly, it
It
really
is. I
is.
mean, I really like it. I mean, I want her to eat by mouth, and she's working on it,
Oh yeah,
but I'm not
definitely.
pushing.
We all want all our kids to eat by mouth. We want them
Yeah.
to. We want to hand them a freaking cheeseburger in the back seat and be like, "Eat it," you know. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd
that's
really
not the
like her
case.
to eat more. I think at this point in her life, she's not nowhere near of not having a G tube. Even if she was eating by mouth, I don't believe that she would be eating enough to sustain. And they need it to
Gunner
build their
could.
muscles and all
Oh
that.
yeah, definitely.
So I don't want,
Stamina, everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm perfectly fine with
Gunner could
it.
definitely eat enough by mouth, but the fluid
Yes.
intake is our problem. But
She
I
It
feel
does
hurts
really
like
worse
well
when
with
they're
it.
sick, or,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. It's such
right.
a lifeline.
Well, they told me to get it out.
I
As you know, is you have to go through a 6 season not using it at all. Not even for
I
medicine.
have a 13-year-old. I would love to give Tanner a freaking G tube
Right.
because he is so picky. I'm like, kid, you got to eat. You got to eat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No,
that's how they
real
are.
that kid does not eat. She is not lying. I spent time with him and he does not eat.
I eat everything.
I know, me too. I need a
it just
G-tube
it,
just so I can like eat healthy and lose weight.
and Tanner needs a G tube to eat like any kind of food,
Period.
give him protein
Yeah.
and stuff.
Except for Raising Cane's.
AC still stuck on like
It-
the chicken nuggets and
Yeah, the
kids get
dude
yeah,
would
stuck on
live
chicken
off of
nuggets
Raising
and
Cane's.
Raising Cane's he could eat every day.
what is that?
I'm not even kidding.
Oh, girl, you
You
are
don't know what
missing
Raising
out.
Cane's
Raising
is?
Cane's.
Oh my
Look
God.
it up. It's heavenly.
What is it?
You guys on the East Coast, man. You
That
don't know what
don't
you're
mean others
missing.
don't know. It just means I don't.
So we know that Emma has had some hip surgeries. Can you explain kind of how those have come about and what those were like?
Yeah. When she was about 2, we started seeing an ortho surgeon. It was part of the complex care team. And so we saw them and they did x-rays. And the first one at 2, she was fine. It was a little bit of hip subluxation. And then at 2.5, we did every 6 months. At 2.5, they did it again, and it was like further out, and it was getting to a point to where, you know, it needed to be fixed. So at 3 years old, she had a hip surgery where I don't know the name of the surgery. It's like a long name. Crystal might know, but it's where they put a screw in her hip to the guided growth screw to guide the growth of the hip so that it would go back into place. And her acetabellum, I guess I'm saying it right, and it was too shallow it needed to be deeper so that her femur could fit in it correctly. And then she had a second hip surgery. I'm guessing like a year or two later. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was 2 years later. To where he took that first screw out and he put a longer second screw in, and he did an even longer one because she was growing so fast, and it's still in there. Um, but we just had an appointment back in June with her ortho surgeon and with the X-ray, and her hips are perfectly fine now. They want to keep it in for another year just for safe reasons, I guess, to make sure everything's good. And then we see the doctor next summer. So we'll see what happens from there. But that was the hip surgery.
And what other health concerns do you monitor with Emma?
Just her cardiac, basically her cardiac, her hips. I mean, she's diagnosed as cerebral palsy. She has CVI. She has the conductive hearing loss because of the narrow ear canals. I'm trying to think. Hers is like mostly developmental. I mean, I feel like all that has to do with development, but
Yeah.
um,
Yes. So I was just going to explain CVI to anyone that's listening that might not know what that is. But it stands for cortical visual impairment. And it's essentially, Crystal can probably explain this better than I can. Yeah, I'll let you take it from here, Crystal. What's like the most simplest way to explain what it is?
it's the way their brain doesn't process it
Processes.
correctly or right, or it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the eyes. That's separate. It's has to do with the way the brain processes what is being the eyes are seeing. Okay, CVI is cerebral visual impairment or cortical visual impairment, depending on whatever you're told. And we were told both of them. The neuro-ophthalmologist said they determined which one by what area of the brain is affected, and the only way to know that is through like a special MRI. I don't remember the type he said, but there's a special type of MRI where they can tell. And so I just say CVI because who knows? Because she hasn't had that. And these kids like movement, things that move, lights, anything that lights up. They do well with black backgrounds and high contrast with like yellow, orange, red, and they tend to stick to a color. And Emma does, but her colors change as to what she sticks to. It was red for a while, and then it was yellow, and now this summer she seems to like pink and purple. So I mean, there's a lot more to it, but it's basically the way the brain processes what the eyes are seeing. It has nothing to do with the eye health. That's totally separate. Which she does wear glasses, as
Right.
you can see in my picture, but like, because she's farsighted. So that's like
And
a
their
quick
processing,
summary.
yeah, and their processing time is also slower
Slower.
than a typical person.
When
So you've got to allow that.
her testing, the IUP says they have to give her at least 15 seconds of processing time because that's what she tested as before she would respond. So, I mean, a lot of times she responds quicker now because, especially if she really wants it, then it's like automatic. But
Yeah, each kid's different and each task is different depending on
yeah,
what
it just
you're doing.
depends. If it's new to her, if it's not something she hasn't seen, then it's definitely longer. Like she has to.
Right.
But it's stuff that she's seen all the time. She's like real quick.
But
If she
I
wants it.
actually watched I watched a reel today about a
cortical vision impairment, and it stated that like if you're waiting for a CVI kiddo to respond and when you get to that point to where you're like bored and you're like, okay, still wait a few more seconds later because they're still processing it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, they do not process things nowhere near what you do.
Yeah, and I'm a very much hurry up person. So I had to
Yeah,
like
it's
learn to be
it's
patient.
very hard. It's very hard to be that patient with a kid with CVI and also try to figure out what works for them because a lot
Mhm.
of kids, it doesn't work like just a black background doesn't
Yeah,
always work. You got
no.
to figure out what their favorite color is, their favorite movement is. If they
Mhm.
need like a red outline of the letters, like
Yeah.
you have to figure out like the bubble letters. There's a lot to it, and it is
It's like
actually like if you go watch like the Perkins Deaf and Blind, they have an actual video where you can see like what a kid sees or a person sees with CVI. It'll like show you an exact video of it, which is
Oh,
a
that's
great
look.
interesting.
it
I can
it's
say
it's
that Emma started, she has an eye gaze as Gunnar and Mia do too. Um, she started with her eye gaze where it was black and the high contrast, but she now doesn't need the black background. We do change colors of certain ones to make them more prominent. Like her more button is pink. Um, the way it's set up now is anything that's a verb is green. Um, things like that. And she does extremely well with it now. I think and um she wasn't ready for that before, but now she is, and her vision therapist did an amazing job. And the last IEP meeting, she's like, I'm just gonna read all of this down of everything that Emma's doing. And I mean, it was like a page full. And she read it all, and I was like, they always ask me like what I think. Like, do I agree? Da da da. And I was like, 100% you hit Emma like right on nail on the head. I'm like, that's Emma. She's like, really? And I'm like, yes. And then that's when she told me that they had been testing her, doing the testing, and she is testing to where she's doing well and choosing things like even 6 to 10 feet out. And they've tested her with all the different backgrounds. She said that she could use any background now. She doesn't need to have strictly black. Um, and she's right. I mean, she's doing really well on her eye gaze, and there's no black backgrounds anymore. So, and I do believe she's progressed tremendously from the beginning, like with her tracking and everything. She did an amazing job with her. So it's a lot of work, and they'll always have CVI, but they can get therapy to progress in it to like a higher level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So kind of backing off of that a bit. I mean, it sounds, and we know that you're really big on therapy with Emma. So can you explain a little bit more about, some of the stuff you do, what she does for um her therapies, and all that?
Yeah, she gets all the therapies in school. She's PT, OT, speech, and vision is now down to a consult. And she said if I feel she needs to come back up to where she comes in like once a week or something, because consult is where the teachers or therapists or whatever can consult her on what to do for Emma. But she gets all of those at school. And then we also do outpatient at the Children's Hospital. We do PT, OT, and speech and feeding there. During the summers, she does an intensive program, a court program, and that's where she has 3 days a week of PTOT. This year was PTOT, speech and feeding. And it's typically 6 weeks long, but she's doing so well in speech with the eye gaze and feeding that they actually have kept her for the entire summer. So she's not done until the end of August with that, and that's 2 days a week with her speech therapist. And they automatically put her back to outpatient. So she has already been to outpatient 2 weeks now, back down to PT and OT. And we do it all year round. Like they like to do, I'm trying to think of what they call it. I think it's episodic care now is what they go by. So when she's done in around November with what she's in now with the OT and PT, then she'll take a break and we see her physical medicine and rehab doctor again in January, and she'll put in new orders for it, and then we'll start back up. So like 2 month break, and then she'll start back up. And she's been in therapy at 2 different children's hospitals, and they both do it now, is the episodic care. So what I do is if I feel like, I don't want her to miss any, so I go from one to the other so that it's continual instead of a break. Sometimes I do the break, and sometimes I just go to the next children's hospital. And they know everybody does that. They know because they see all the care. 'Cause she's done aquatic therapy at a different hospital. She's done intensive at a different hospital. So I just keep her going, and she's progressing very well, very well. And just got to keep it up, because if you don't, then she can regress. So that's
Yeah.
and they can regress pretty fast if you don't stay on it. So we're just staying on it, and I do it at home.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Emma's getting a lot of therapy and a lot of therapy at home,
Yeah, at home.
which is so important because I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of people don't get right on this journey is they do all the
They don't follow
therapies
through.
outpatient or at home, and then it's like they don't do it at home or at school, I meant to say, and then they don't do it at home, and it's all repetition. They have to get those repetitions in and stuff like that. So you just have to like focus on, I've found with Mia anyways, like just focusing on specific things. And obviously those things are going to change, but
Yeah.
focus on those things so you don't stress yourself out. Because, obviously our kids need to work on so many things, but
You're
there's
right.
no way to get it all in every single day. So for like, I don't know what like your kind of goals right now with MRR on what you focus on at home, but like for us, we do like at least 45 minutes to an hour of stander, and then like we're working on sitting and tummy time and stuff like that. So you just got to kind of pinpoint what your specific goals for that week or month are, and like really hone in on some of those things so you make it doable.
I do it
It
until
has to
she's
follow
like
through.
strong, until she's like strong with it. Like you could put her, she goes up into tall kneeling by herself, and she'll like, we're still doing it, but we're doing that. We're doing half kneeling, which she's gotten really good at too. She can get into it, but it's the balance part she's still working on. And then sit to stands, the wobble board, everything with her legs mainly, and then getting her into crawl position, which she does on her own, but making her stay in it because she likes to go up in it and come back down, go up in it, like stay up in it. And we're working on the motor planning of crawling, which she's starting to pick up really good, where she's moving her arms and her legs. So
That's good.
I think
that's like the
motor
biggest
planning.
things.
I think motor
right now.
planning is a lot with our kids. So
Yeah, she needs repetition. Like we didn't get anything done today, but she'll have like the next 2 days we're at home. We'll be doing it throughout the day as I'm in between doing stuff at my home. So
There you go. You said it right.
I say it
Good
right
job.
either way. But and so that's what I do is when I'm home. We just do it throughout the day. It's not,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be consistently 45 minutes to an hour.
mm,
I tend to do like a couple of things. Like I'll do the tall kneeling and the half kneeling, and then I'll let her chill out and I'll go do some housework or computer work, and then I'll come back and do sit to stands and the wobble board. So
yeah, short spurts sometimes is good.
yeah.
The only thing that we like do like kind of a set time in is the stander because it's like you're getting them in, might as well leave them in for a good amount
I
of
mean,
time.
once she has hers, then I'll do that. But
Yeah, for sure. So like beyond therapy and school and stuff, what activities does Emma love to do?
Emma loves the water, so she loves going swimming. She loves music. She loves reading books. You could read to her all day long. She'd be happy. Um, she loved riding horses when she rode those, and you could tell that she'll go to a horse. Like if you ask her what a horse is, she's like, um, she like loves so much that it's like hard to pinpoint. Uh, and when we go places, she's just misobservant, observes everybody. And when she's comfortable, she's misverbal. So
Yeah. What is the best advice that you would give to a new mom that is just getting this diagnosis?
That's a hard question.
yeah, I mean, I think in this time of day, because there's the Facebook groups are so common, whereas when I had her, they were not. Um, I would say get into the groups with the parents. Write out any question, uh, no matter what you think it is. If you think it's dumb or stupid, and you don't want others to think that of you, it doesn't matter. We've all been there. We've all had probably the same exact questions. Um, I would definitely reach out with whatever. Um, I think my biggest advice is find your people within the community, because you're going to learn more from them than you are from the doctors and
Mhm.
nurses
Definitely.
and things like that. I would also say to follow your mom gut, that if you don't think what you're being told is right and you want to get different answers, then follow it and ask for it and consult, get second opinions. Come on the groups and write what's going on, and see what the other moms or parents, even dads, have done, um, and what they say, so that it can give you more of a wide open view of it to go back at the doctors and be like, hey, I don't agree with this because of this. Can we do this? You know, that would be my biggest thing, is you have to advocate for your kid, and you can't just say, oh, well, they said that, so that's it. That's right. So
I totally agree. That's definitely good advice for sure.
Yeah, you gotta know where to draw the line.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to find your doctors that are advocating for your kid just as much as you, because they are out there. There's many of them. Um,
Yeah, and that's kind of hard to do when you don't know.
yeah, yeah. I think with me, because I had worked in the hospital for 5 years before I had Emma, it was easier for me to be vocal because I've worked
Right.
around doctors and stuff, and I get that. Um, but just
But
know
if
that
you're
there
a
are people
parent that
like
has
you.
yeah, if you
That's
have
what I say. Yeah,
no medical knowledge, like do your
yeah, it's tough.
research.
Yeah. Be careful where you research, though.
Yeah, definitely be careful
True.
with your research. And
That's that's the
yeah.
problem. Good thing
I
is
mean,
I had a good doctor while I was pregnant with Gunner. So
yeah,
he point them in the right direction. And it sucks to parents that don't have that.
That's why the biggest thing I say is even with the research, part of your research should be with other parents that are going through it too.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10 with the trisomy world, somebody else has dealt with what you're dealing with.
Usually.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because
At least in
to
some
some sort of
capacity.
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want to
And
say
they can
Mia,
they can
sometimes
just
it's gray area for sure.
Mia is definitely Mia.
Mia Mia is a very little odd little creature.
Yeah. She likes to hit everything. And
In her own timeline, not in the timeline you would expect.
and if you
Right.
think that with Mia, if you think that this is the symptom for this, but she's not showing it, Mia made up her own
Totally
symptoms for
opposite.
what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's
Totally
exactly why you
opposite.
have to find the doctors
Yeah.
that are on your side because they will learn to trust your mom gut.
The best
Uh,
doctors that I've had for Emma is one time when we went into the ER for something. I think it was when she had her kidney infection. The doctor came in, and he was originally from DC hospital. Came in and he said, "Oh, she has trisomy 18." He said they're so hard because they present differently with things. He said, "So I'm going to test for everything," and that's what he
yeah,
did.
that's a
They
good
do.
doctor. I feel like that's like the biggest thing, and that's something that it wasn't quite as, I mean, so much has changed, I feel like, in the last
Yeah.
5 years. And so,
Oh,
like, even when
definitely.
Mia was born, it was like, unless you were at like Cincinnati or, one of these like bigger hubs, it's like they didn't know the whole workup to be done in the NICU. And now I just feel like it's becoming like second nature at a lot of these places, and they're doing the full like workup of every organ. And I think that's something too that like I look back on with Mia and I'm like, I wish we had stuff to compare to now. And so I think that's
Right.
like a game
Yeah.
changer with kind of where things have progressed in the last 5 years with
Yeah, I can say
trisomy.
with Emma, with the hospital she was born at, they checked her from head to toe. Like I have test results from every single organ, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
And I didn't even know they did that at the time. I knew they were checking her heart because when I was pregnant, I knew she had a heart defect, but they went and I knew about the brain because I went in to visit her one time in the NICU. She was like, I think she was like a day or two old. And the doctor that was over her told me that I guess they did some sort of CT brain scan and she said that it came back completely normal. Um, I guess for everything they looked for. And she's like, "Oh, her brain's completely normal." She was like sitting right here next to me on the stool, and I was like, "That's good." I didn't even know that they were doing that, but
Yeah, that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I like look back and I mean, I know everything happened how it was supposed to with Mia, but like if she were to be in the NICU like today with like the same situation that we dealt with all of her things she had going on, like she probably would have been in the NICU for like at least 3 to 6 months. And she was only in for like a little over a month. So, like I said, everything happens for a reason,
yeah,
how it's supposed to. Like everything worked out, but it's very interesting to like look back on things with kind of where things are at today. Um
yeah. Even with Emma being denied heart surgery at the first hospital, I feel like she ended up where she was supposed to be, and
exactly.
and I have no qualms about being there. Like
Yeah.
so,
I truly think that all of our kids were born where they were supposed to. Like Mia too. We didn't know her diagnosis and she would have never made it anywhere else with how early she needed her heart repair. And I mean, they did everything in the perfect timing, no questions asked. So like, was everything perfect? Like looking back, absolutely not. And if I knew a lot of what I knew now, like I would have advocated differently too. But everything happens. I mean, she's here and she's 6. I'm a 7, like everything kind
yeah,
of you learn as you go and everything kind of just works its way out. And
I mean,
you know,
even though I worked in it, I learned as I went too. I was in
exactly.
a completely different capacity at
Yeah.
work
And
versus
you just learn your child and you have to, I mean, they're going to teach you. So,
yeah.
um, I feel like that's a big part of it. Is there any other, things you want to talk about Emma, that you want the listeners to know about her, her journey?
These babies are usually very happy. They're very strong. Um, I would give them a chance. I know it's everybody's choice, but I definitely give them a chance and see what they show you. That's what I
I-
say.
Yes, I agree. I mean, and it's your child too.
Yeah,
You're going to love your child no matter what.
yeah.
And in
And
order to,
definitely
in
know
order
they all
to,
have their own journey.
exactly. And I mean, my philosophy is always, even if you have, you know, questions or concerns, doubts, whatever it may be, um, go full intervention, like go all in because it's your child and it's hard to change your minds once they're born. You want to
Yeah.
kind of have those plans in place. And you know, I haven't really met any parents that regret their decision to go full intervention, because it's your child and you want to meet them and get to know their personality, and that's going to drive you forward even more. To have the journey like Kelly just, spoke about with Emma. So that's always my philosophy is, make sure they're going to stabilize your child, look at everything they're going to need, and, take it from there one day at a time. Um, but no, we're very happy that you shared Emma's story. She's amazing. Um, and thank you for being on with us.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.